Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and today we're going to look at some electronic percussion. This is the new, or newer, Roland SPD-SX Pro. I've always had one of these Roland pads since they were first introduced way back in the day, starting with the Octapad, which had no internal sound, so I would just MIDI that up to a module. But these latest pads, the last 15 years or so, have great sounds, the Roland sounds, which I really like. They're also samplers where you can put in your own sound. So over the years, I've sampled all my thousands of percussion instruments, and I have them all on this one pad. And I can bring this to a gig, a theater gig, a symphony gig if they rent the stuff, all kinds of different things, and just have all my sounds right here. So it's very convenient. Now, normally I don't, you don't see a lot of videos of me playing electronic percussion, but I have always done that. Was one of the first ones to use a mallet cat in the 1980s. Mario introduced me to that, and I used that on some live touring shows. And then it became popular after that. Now, lots of shows use the mallet cat because you can switch between all different instruments, and it saves a lot of space. And recently, I even did a symphony production with two mallet cats and two of these types of pads. So I have lots of different pads. All of these, the iterations of this from the beginning. I have a hand sonic that I really like. I even have a Korg wave drum. I have two mallet cats. So I've always had these and rented them out and used them, and they're fun. They're fun to play. I don't enjoy playing them as much as obviously acoustic drums, but I do enjoy playing them. So this particular pad I think is their best. It's their latest, and one of the reasons that it is because it has this great interface here on my laptop. You can see I'm doing a screen record. You can edit now with the laptop, where before you just had to sort of use the pad that was built in, or the screen that was built in, which is very small and not necessarily very intuitive. Although Roland's interface is pretty good. I find them easier to use than the Yamaha interfaces as well as the Korg interfaces. So there you just heard some trap music. One of those was a preset from the Roland library there, and then I also added an electronic kit that I programmed. Remember those? Simmons from the 80s, brings back memories. Also had a set of those. And then I have some external pads here where I program these from the trigger outs of the SPD. So it's just a bass drum there and a hi-hat. Now I'm going to show you some close-ups of the pedals in case you can't see them on this main screen. So this is just an old DW cheap trigger pedal, which I like, feels good, and an old TD7. That's not the model of the pedal, but that's came with the TD7 kit, and some old PD7 pads. They also have the larger PD9s. I have tons of those. So really, you can set up, 3, 4 pads, maybe more if you split them out of this device on the back, and we'll show you that in a minute. I apologize for the reflection on the screen of the Roland from an overhead light, but it's there. Okay, and we'll give you a quick tour here. We got the headphones. Let's see right here. Volume, that's obviously down right now. We have the master volume. I usually crank that up, and then I have lots of control here. We have the click volume, which is off right now. We have the master effect, which is off because I've already programmed those. So, and then the pitch, which is really cool. You can do that on the fly, just like the hand sonic. You can do that. Couldn't do it with any other of these pads. Now, and then here's the programming or the pad screen that lets you know exactly what you're doing. But of course, we have the computer, which is awesome, and we'll show you the screenshot of this now. And let's just talk about it. It has all of your samples here, and there's 1,500 to come with it. And I've also added already, I've gotten it recently, about 300 of my own, a couple hundred at least. And everything you'd want on here, naming, which is super fast. This is a really complex device, so if you guys are interested, we'll see how this video does. But if you're interested, I'll do some programming things on here. I also use Ableton to program, as well as Logic and some other things, but this is sort of a one-stop very secure, never crashing program. At least I haven't had any problems with it. And you see you can literally drag a kick over somewhere. Here's a warm kick. I'm not going to do it now, but so you literally drop and drag, or drag and drop, I should say. Okay? And each pad has two different samples available, and you can crossfade those here with different ways of switching. So you see here we have linear for the dynamic curve, and the switching, you have layer types. So mix, fade 1, fade 2, X crossfade, switch, and mono switch, alternate, which means every time you hit it, it'll be a different sound, which is very cool. And the hi-hat, which I have it on now, because I'm using it for a hi-hat. So now you see on these pads, these PD-7 pads, using two sounds. So on my snare, we got this cheesy electronic sound, the Simmons sound, and then we have a regular rim shot. And then the same thing here, although these are all mono right now. Okay? There's 9 pads here, and then the triggers you want to use. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triggers hooked up. You can split them and do more. So like I said before, it's a very, very complex device. We'll give you a little tour around back real quick. And I have all this ready to go for a gig I got coming up tomorrow. It's a string quartet. It's a hip-hop gig with string quartet and electronic drums. Don't ask me why, but it's actually kind of fun. So you see these are all the trigger outputs going to my pads. And then it's got, it's hard to see here because these are angle cords here, but you've got a left, right, out, obviously. I'm running it mono to this amp. The amp I'm using is this old Roland amp, FFP. It's a great amp for electronic drums. And I'm going direct out of that. And it's got MIDI out and through and in, obviously. But I'm using just internal sounds now, so no external module. And again, it's a sampler, so you see the sampling volume here. And we can do a separate video on that. Become an expert in that on this. It's super easy on this, though. I used to do a lot of sampling with an Akai 1000 back in the day for people, for drum sounds. All right, so it's pretty straightforward. It does have outputs, individual outputs, 4 of them, so you can run them into a mixer, which is really useful. And that's pretty much it for our introductory little portion of this, but the programs are changed by doing this. So I use this for a lot of things normally. Well, I just did the Bloomy Awards, which is a version of the Jimmy Awards here in Charlotte. So I have like timpani tuned on it. This was the Addams Family tune. So we're, you know, if you're playing drum set and you can't get to these things and it's just you and not a percussionist, this is the way to go. In almost all the shows. Oh yeah, I did a big band version of First Circle recently, Pat Metheny tune. Put this down for a second. What was it? The band didn't want to do the clapping, so I programmed it and did it for them. And then I have that little keyboard sound right now. It's just octaves of something. I don't know. It's not a piano sound. But all right, so you can do all kinds of cool things with it. It's good to have around. And again, you can make money by renting these things out and programming them. A long time ago in New York, we had a cabaret law. They started enforcing it back in the 80s, early 80s, and all of a sudden the drums, couldn't use drums in clubs, certain clubs. So I lost a lot of work, but the drum machine was just coming along with Steely Dan doing the Lynn drum machine. And so I bought a Yamaha RX machine, RX-7, I think. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I learned how to program it. And I got a lot of work in the studios doing that, programming. That saved my butt there. I was able to pay my rent in New York for a few years before they fixed that cabaret law thing. And I was able to get back to playing every night. But But yeah, that was almost a good thing. Not for lots of people, but for me, forced me to learn how to do programming and get into this. And then I would play with different groups and do all the programming for them, and strings, horns, all kinds of stuff. I did that for a long time. I even did electronic drum clinics for PAS. I did one. I remember I did one with Rick Latham. That's when I first met him back in the, late 80s, probably 89, 90. And I had a Malacat, and I had all kinds of electronic drums. It was like a one-man band thing. So I was really into this for a while, but again, my real love is acoustic percussion, obviously. But these days you need to know this stuff, and I teach it at the college. So it's very important to learn all this. All right. So we may do a series on this. We may not. We'll see what the interest is like. But I like it. It's fun. And I'm always programming different things. So like here's a sort of an acoustic kit. So some of these sounds are Roland sounds, and some are my samples. Okay, so I mix and match them. Some of the cymbals. That's a Roland sound. That's a clap sound. I believe that's a 909 clap, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a Roland China, but that's an old K that I sampled. So, certain cymbal sounds don't sound good. So you can put your own samples in there, your cymbals, whatever, and just build a kit. Now, the other great thing that I didn't mention about this is you can get everything pretty much in 2 cases, and then you have your amp. Maybe 1 case if it's a big case, and just roll it on in there. All right. Normally, I do not do gigs on this, but this one gig I got coming up Saturday, which is, like I said, a hip-hop gig with a string quartet, which there's a whole thing now that they do tons of concerts all the time. They pay pretty well. And I'll just roll this in there, and then I can control my volume. These are done in a church, so it's really loud. If I bring acoustic drums, I'm walking on eggshells the whole night. So if I have my volume here, I can bring it way, way down and just play grooves, And I can play as loud and hard as I want and not worry about the volume, which is a blessing in those cases. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you soon.